You kept showing up. You stayed late, you said yes, you tried harder, you held it together for the team, the clients, the patients, everyone. And somewhere along the way, you started disappearing from yourself. Welcome to the Veterinary Business Podcast, where practice owners get the strategies that build stronger teams and stronger businesses. I'm your host, Don Adeesha. It's great to have you here. For a lot of veterinarians listening in, burnout isn't just about being tired. It's about years of perfectionism, people-pleasing, self-suppression, and living in survival mode until you barely recognize who you are outside of the work. Today, I'm joined by Joelle Flynn. She's a mindset, nervous system regulation, somatic, and human design coach, and the founder of Joyful Journeys with Joe. Before becoming a coach, Joelle spent more than 20 years in veterinary medicine as a registered veterinary technician, and after experiencing burnout and career disruption herself, she now helps veterinary technicians, veterinarians, and support staff move out of overwhelm and reconnect with who they really are. We're going to get into why perfectionism and people-pleasing are so common in vet med, what survival mode actually does to the nervous system, how self-suppression fuels burnout, and what it takes to rebuild safety, self-trust, and confidence in this profession. This episode is sponsored by Echo Marketing, the team helping veterinary practice owners elevate their online presence and grow with clarity. Joelle, it's great to have you on the podcast.
I am so honored and excited to be here with you, Dawn. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's get into the conversation here, Joelle. Many veterinarian professionals struggle with perfectionism and people-pleasing. What do you think these patterns are so common in veterinary medicine?
I believe that, I'm also gauging in my own personal experience. I know when I was young, I felt as though I needed to uphold other people's expectations. And I also was in a dynamic within my family where I felt like I had to be the perfect kid as well. So we talk a lot about perfectionism and people pleasing in veterinary medicine. But what I've found personally is that we don't talk about the root causes of those behaviors. And until we start to address those root causes, we're going to start those two tendencies. We're going to see them continue to rear their ugly heads. So for me personally, in vet med specifically, I went through, like you said, 22 years almost of veterinary medicine, being in small animal internal medicine, and I experienced burnout 3 times, actually. So I was in and out of the industry 3 times. That third time, I officially hung up my stethoscope, never thinking that I would be drawn back to veterinary medicine. But I know now that this is why I was drawn to veterinary medicine to begin with, was to be here for my colleagues in this facet. So I'm grateful for it now, but it wasn't until I went through that healing process where I really discovered where those people-pleasing and perfectionism tendencies were coming from. And now I'm so passionate about bringing that to the veterinary medical field because we get so caught up in that we totally and completely lose our identity because every single time we choose to make sure someone else is happy and neglect ourselves, it makes us eliminate any boundaries that we might have had at one point in time. It makes us self-suppress even further. And then that ultimately sends a message to our subconscious mind and our physical body that we are unworthy of our desires, that we're unworthy of what we want out of life. And
Mhm.
I think it's so incredibly important to start addressing those core issues, those issues that are part of our identity that we have actually been suppressing for some of us. I mean, for me, it was 47 years,
That's right.
47 years. And I almost feel like I woke up one morning and I just was like, you know what? I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't know what I love. I don't know what lights me up. I don't know what my path or my purpose is on this earth. I had just fallen so deeply into those people pleasing and perfection tendencies that
Mm.
my identity was totally lost.
Oof. Oh, there's a lot to unpack there. But I'm really curious about the first two times that you left, out of burnout. Uh, what was different about that first two times? What did you not address these root causes? Like you thought this was temporary. You went on a vacation, you came back.
You
What
know what?
happened?
I love this question so much, and I appreciate you for asking it because it's not really something that I've thought much about, but it ties into this topic so well. So, the first time I actually stepped away from veterinary medicine, I had just had my son, so my firstborn. My second child was on the way. So I was experiencing kind of all the hormonal stuff, the pressures of, now you're a mom and this is what's important. And we have to sacrifice in order to show our love for our children, right? That's what love looks like, is sacrifice. And so I felt as though I had to sacrifice my career in order to now be a mom. And then the second time I actually, my children were a little bit older. I stepped away from the industry primarily due to burnout. And it was my own mother actually who pressured me about, you're so good at this job. You love it so much. You went through and you got all this education. You have all this tremendous experience. Why aren't you going back? So then it was like this transition from, now your kids are older and they don't necessarily need you. We always need our mothers, right? But um, it it was like this pressure to go back to the career. And
Mm.
so that's what ultimately led me back. So to answer your question about did I go through the healing process then? I absolutely did not, because I didn't recognize at the time what it was that was causing the burnout. I just attributed it to other things, right? The first time was the hormonal aspects about being pregnant, being a mother to a young one, all that kind of stuff. And then the second time it was, I was overwhelmed with everything, plus being mom and not really having any kind of balance. So
Mm.
I love that question. Thank you so much for asking it. It's brought
Absolutely.
kind of a new thought process to me now. That's amazing.
Oh, wow. That's great to hear. And, as you were mentioning those two things, because the reason why I asked that question is because I wanted our listeners to understand what they might also be doing themselves, right? They're also in the same position, and they're also misdiagnosing it, as you did the first two times around. So, what I took away from that, Joelle, is making someone else happy, neglecting ourselves, right?
Yes,
That
100%.
that seems
Yeah,
to inevitably lead us on the path to burnout.
100%. Yeah, because ultimately we are meant to, our purpose on this earth is to just
That's right.
be ourselves. And from the moment we're born, we start having all of these other influences on us. Our belief systems are created through cultural, societal, religious, like all of these different influences that help us to create our belief systems in the way that where our upbringing is. And so everything from you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not courageous enough, you're not strong enough, you talk too much, you're too opinionated, you're too boisterous, whether it's you're too much of something or not enough of something, all of those influences impact our subconscious mind so much so that we start to believe that our natural and authentic self isn't worthy of showing. And then all of these additional fears start to get created surrounding those belief systems. So the fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, the fear of humiliation and shame. Oh my goodness, humiliation and shame are so huge in this industry. So huge, right? Like, God forbid we should make any mistakes. God forbid we shouldn't know everything at the drop of a hat. Right? God forbid we shouldn't, have the answer at every second in every moment, or show the right level of compassion and care, or like, don't even get me started on addressing money things with clients, because that's always a bone of contention as well. So yeah, it's an incredible impact that has on our lives right from the time we're in childhood.
That I think, like, we are authentically human, right? And authentically human means 100% guaranteed we are going to make mistakes. And that's fine. And I think, like, what I'm understanding here, it's okay to make someone else happy, but not at the expense of your own happiness, right?
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit
Yes.
more about that. Now, you describe nervous system regulation as the foundation for change. What does it look like when a veterinary professional is operating from survival mode, and how can they begin to shift out of it?
Yes, this is such a great question, because I really feel that most of us don't even recognize it within ourselves. Right? I think most oftentimes it's going to be someone else in your direct circle that starts to recognize that you're dysregulated. And let's face it, almost everyone who will be watching this podcast will be dysregulated. It's actually statistically proven that up to 85% of North America's average adult is spending up to 90% of their awake hours in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, or that parasympathetic nervous system mode, that survival mode. So we are operating in survival mode almost all the time, and most of us don't even know it. So what is it going to look like? It can manifest in physical ways, chronic inflammation, GI disturbances, anything from sleep disruption to energy decrease, brain fog. All of those sorts of things can be physical indications that you're operating from survival mode. Anxiety, depression, right? Both of those things as well. And from a mental and physical or mental and emotional perspective, we are unable to cope appropriately with our emotions. So emotions is so funny. Anytime I think about this, I think about how so many of us haven't got a clue what we're supposed to do with our emotions. And the word itself indicates what we're supposed to do. Emote. Emotions. They're meant to be felt. They're meant to be realized. They're meant to be acknowledged. They're meant to be learned from and moved through. But instead, what do? We suppress them. We push them down. We try to ignore them for the sake of being stoic and strong. Or I know back in my day when I went through my learning, we were told, like, never cry in front of a client. Don't show your emotion in front of a client. You have to be strong for them, right? And as women, especially, we get told the same kind of thing with our kids. Like, we have to be strong for our kids. Men are the same. Like, men aren't permitted, right? You have to be a man. You have to, and it's very similar mindsets that are passed along to us, these belief systems that are passed along to us about not showing our emotions. And then we wonder why we're so dysregulated. And it's like, friend, if you've had a day where you need to go home and punch pillows or scream into the pillows or lay on the floor and have a temper tantrum like a 2-year-old, do it, because it's so freeing and it feels so good. And immediately after it's passed, it's like, you feel like a different human being. But when we continually suppress all of our feelings and emotions, what ends up happening? We end up becoming short-tempered. We end up becoming either very sad or really depressed in certain situations, or we have panic attacks, right? So from a mental and emotional perspective, those are the sorts of things that we'll see. And it's not until those sort of things kick in that most of us become internally aware. And it's all about awareness. So we might start to, like, I have this maybe acid reflux. And I know for me, I had it for 7 years, and I attribute it now all to being like dysregulated with my nervous system. So sometimes we don't notice those physical things and we think that it's our normal, and it's not normal. Okay. But when it really starts to become apparent is when it's just so far gone that we start to experience panic attacks. And I know for me, I didn't even recognize that that's like, I didn't even call those particular moments panic attacks until I was sharing them with my daughter. And she's like, Mom, you're having panic attacks. Like, this is what this is. And I was like, oh, because like for me, they manifested as uncontrollable crying. Like, I was at work one day and out of nowhere, like out of absolutely nowhere, I think maybe I was placing an IV catheter, and this uncontrollable crying. And I'm like, what is happening to my body right now? And it was like in complete shutdown mode, like no prefrontal cortex, gone. So it took for her, it took for me to share with her what my experience was in that moment. And then for her to say, that's a panic attack. And then I was like, oh, then what is happening? Right. So then began kind of this journey to learning how to be more aware.
Journey to really learning more how to be more aware of your own emotions. I mean, we really don't take them seriously until the point like we are in your situation, uncontrollably crying in the middle of the day out of nowhere. And then you're like, oh, I must be suppressing a little bit too much. And that might not be your first thought either. You might be thinking something is wrong with my body. Let me, get some Tylenol or, some kind of medicine to fix up the symptom, but never the problem. Now, how can we really begin to shift out of this? How does this journey start? Take us there, Joelle.
Yes. So I believe that the best place to start, and one of the things that's really missing with mindset and mental health in our industry, is talking about central nervous system regulation. I think that it is absolutely foundational. I know for myself, I'm actually certified in a multitude of modalities, anything from somatic therapy to polyvagal theory, EMDR, EFT, all of these different things. And the reason I'm so passionate about all of those different modalities is because I actually base all of my coaching on everyone's individual human design. And we'll talk about that shortly, I'm sure. But it's really important to create habits that help us regulate. And I know one of the things that I find absolutely fascinating about veterinary medicine is we know so much about the physical body and the understandings of the physiology and the neuroscience behind the physical body. And yet we don't recognize within ourselves that we're not even breathing the way our bodies are intended to breathe. That diaphragmatic breathing, those nice deep sighs, and like fully inflating our lungs. Like another thing about the statistic that I shared earlier about being in survival mode is that we actually only utilize the upper quadrants of our lungs throughout the day as well. So what does that affect? It affects our oxygenation. It affects our blood flow. It affects lymphatic drainage, all of these different aspects that just simply breathing appropriately can change. So breath work is huge, and we call it breath work, but ultimately it's just learning how to breathe the way the good Lord or the universe, the divine, however, a higher being you believe in, has created us to breathe. And that sends the message to our central nervous system that we're safe in that moment. So when we can train our bodies, and like this is one of the biggest misconceptions I find with mindset work as well, is that we focus on mindset, believing that the cure to all of this is actually within our mind, but we have to work backwards. And while we understand when we're in this work, while we understand that it was our mindset that got our physical bodies to where it's at right now, in order to heal, we've actually got to work backwards, because anyone who's on the call right now might be thinking, yeah, I've tried fixing my mindset. I've tried changing the way I think. But the moment our conscious mind tries to convince our subconscious mind of something that our subconscious mind believes is unsafe, it causes like that neurological trigger in our body, and our bodies instinctively react. So many people don't know that when a trigger happens, so say there's something that makes you angry, before you even recognize that there's a thought associated with that anger, your body reacted first. And it's like not even a fraction of a second. It happens so quickly, but our nervous system is so highly tuned and trained to respond to triggers that we actually have that body response before we have the thought occur in our subconscious mind. And then our conscious mind will recognize it. And so in order to really address mindset, we have to start within the body, getting the body to feel safe. Otherwise, the moment we start to talk about rooting in our authenticity, all of those subconscious beliefs that have been running on the repeat in our subconscious mind for our entire life, 85% of which I would say are negative, those thought processes automatically kick in and our bodies instantly go into survival mode. So we need to be able to work backwards. Our bodies have to feel safe in order for us to start believing new and uplifting and empowering thoughts. and changing our thought processes and working with the neuroplasticity of our brain in order to reprogram those thoughts. But it all starts with feeling safe within ourselves first. Otherwise, we have this battlefield between our conscious and our subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is going to say, of course you're safe. Look at around. Like there's no saber-toothed tiger in the building.
Yeah.
But then the moment you think to yourself, you know, like I really feel like I need to just right and just express my anger in this moment, if it's appropriate, of course. You don't really want to do that in front of clients, but you can go to the back and go to your safe place and express that anger, but you have to feel safe to do that. If you go to the back to your coworkers and you growl and like start to utilize the knowledge that you have with your vagus nerve and working with polyvagal theory, you might get some dirty looks. And if you have that fear of judgment and rejection, what are you going to do? You're going to continue suppressing all of those feelings and emotions, and therefore not process them, not emote them, because ultimately your body feels unsafe to do it.
What a wonderful, wonderful answers, really, right there. So getting the body to feel safe, because I was just wondering about that. What does it mean? So you mean physically be in a safe space as well as emotional. That's also key, of course. You must feel safe. And then you emote. Now I'm wondering, Joelle, I don't want to be doing this when I'm angry. I don't want to get there. So what does getting the body to feel safe look like when I'm at a more neutral state of mind, where I just want to acknowledge, right, I have come down a wrong path. I would like to, go in a better direction.
Right. So once we become aware of our reactions or our triggers, our reactions to our triggers, that awareness is where we can really start to tap into learning how to regulate in those moments. But the more we practice regulation, and I say practice because it's a simple concept, but awareness is what brings us to a place where we start to actually utilize it. So what I'll often recommend my clients do is like that 3 minutes where you've just nicely crawled into bed and you're not quite asleep yet. And to just focus on the activity, whatever it might be. It might just be simple breathing. Just breathe from the belly, one hand on the belly, one hand on the heart. Feel that elevation in your abdomen and completely fill. And in doing that, it's going to create a habit, right? And it's a habit that we can institute anytime, at any point of the day, and we can start to implement it all the time as well. And then it becomes an unconscious effort, right? It becomes something that we just do without even knowing that we're doing it. And so the more we are aware in the beginning of our central nervous system dysregulation and how to change that, the more we can start to have it become a daily thing at any time. And that is what ultimately really starts to change things for us, is that we spend majority of our day in regulation as opposed to dysregulation. Now, I will say that being regulated doesn't mean we're never going to experience sadness. It doesn't mean we're never going to experience frustration or anger. It just means that our recovery from it is going to be quicker. We're going to move from those fight, flight, fear, and fawn states back to rest and digest quickly. And that is the key. Obviously, we're never going to move through our human experience without having some level of fears. And that's normal and that's healthy for us to experience certain fears and to have those moments where we feel as though we need to protect ourselves, right? Otherwise, there could very well be a saber-toothed tiger lurking around the corner. And if we're like, well, it's fine, I'm safe, then ultimately that's not ideal. But we will move and recover more quickly from those situations just by adopting these new habits and daily rituals that we incorporate into our day-to-day that just become things that we do unconsciously.
Amazing. Because what I kind of take away from that is if we are going usually 0 to 100, we might go 0 to 30, because we have been regulating. We can kind of catch on a little bit quicker. You know the signs, you're feeling, because I know personally when I have reached that limit and gone beyond that threshold, it feels like a bad hangover, just like it just feels drained. I'm drained of emotion. It's just, you have gone beyond what you're capable of, or, and it just feels like a horrible, horrible hangover. But instead, you don't even have a great night out. You just had a few moments of frustration. So it's would be amazing to kind of catch that on a bit earlier and just acknowledge, okay, might be getting mad here. Let's not go all the way.
Let's take a minute. Let's take a beat, have some introspection, take those nice deep breaths. And I think too, now, one of the other pillars in my coaching is human design. And I know we're going to get there, but it plays a huge role in our nervous system as well. And it also helps us to have grace, right? So take a moment of introspection and take that nice deep belly breath, and also recognize that every other person thinks differently. They have different qualities about themselves. They have different gifts, different talents, different attributes, different personalities, and all these things. So it gives us that awareness to take a moment to give grace to other people as well.
Okay, that's a very interesting point. That's a really interesting point. Give grace to other people. Perhaps then you can begin giving grace to yourself too. Right. Amazing. Now, we've been talking about what happens when veterinary professionals stay in survival mode for too long, always reacting, always bracing, always trying to keep everything from falling apart. Your practice can end up in survival mode too. It may not look like burnout at first. It may look like inconsistent new client flow, an online presence that no longer reflects the quality of your care, marketing that feels scattered, or a team that is doing great work but not being seen by the right people. And just like a personal burnout, practice growth challenges rarely fix themselves by pushing harder. And that is why the Veterinary Business Institute, together with our platinum sponsor, Echo Marketing, is offering a complimentary marketing strategy meeting for our veterinary community. This session is valued at $900, but is being provided completely free of charge to our listeners. You will meet with Lila, a veterinary marketing strategist who has worked with more than 200 veterinary practices, helping them elevate their online presence, attracting the right clients, and creating a clearer path for sustainable growth. During this meeting, Lila will help you look at where your practice stands online, what may be holding your marketing back, and what opportunities you may be missing to better connect with pet owners in your community. So, if your practice has been doing excellent, but your marketing does not fully show that, this is a great opportunity to get that expert guidance at no cost. Book your complimentary marketing strategy meeting through veterinarybusinessinstitute.com/MSM. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Veterinary Business Institute, that's one word, .com/MSM. Now, Echo only takes a limited number each month. If this resonates with you, grab a spot while it's open. All right, let's get back to the conversation because the next question takes it even further. Now, Joelle, your coaching framework includes the concept of IBAG. Am I correct?
Yes.
How do you pronounce that?
Exactly the way you did. The IBAG.
Amazing. The IBAG. So balanced, boundless, and genuine. What does each of those qualities mean in real life for someone working in vet med?
I really love this question. Number one, because I feel as though my coaching is very unique in this regard. I think that there are very few of us who are approaching mindset and mental health in the same way as I am with these three pillars. So I operate on the idea that our central nervous system regulation is key. So that's the balanced portion of the IBAG. And that we are absolutely boundless, and to approach our belief systems and our fears and to really get down to the core of what created those belief systems and fears and really start to work with the neuroplasticity of our brains to change those thought patterns. It's key to get right to the events that created those belief systems to begin with. And I use a very unique hypnotherapeutic method called Clear the Fear. I'm one of only about 50 practitioners worldwide who are certified to utilize that modality. And that's exactly what it does. It takes us directly to the exact event that created that belief system and that fear so that we can change the story behind the event and make that event from a negative experience into a positive experience. And then we use reprogramming techniques to change our thought processes surrounding those events and those beliefs. And that is an incredibly transformational experience. And then the last portion of it is being genuine. And this is, like I mentioned earlier, so many of us get caught up in this, like, what is my purpose on this planet? What am I supposed to be doing here? I've lost my path. And we look for it out there. We try to find our answer in the exterior when the truth of the matter is that it's within us, right? Our purpose is simply to just be our genuine and authentic self. And the tool that I use to help guide us or reunite us with that true and authentic self is human design. Many people don't know what human design is, and it's absolutely fascinating. I know for me personally, it was a huge part of my transformation. And it's actually becoming more and more popular in the corporate world as well, because the corporate world is understanding the value that it brings It helps us to recognize us as unique individuals. It helps to identify our strengths, our talents, how we're meant to communicate with other people, how we're meant to utilize our energy and replenish our energy and protect our energy. It is so incredibly fascinating. And I think that it's one of the key aspects that we're missing in veterinary medicine, because we are such highly empathic individuals that we really tend to suppress ourselves and we lose ourselves. So we need this guideline or this roadmap to help guide us back to who we are at our core, help us to remember the things that we loved in our childhood, and even bring us back to our why in veterinary medicine. Why did we make the decision to even enter veterinary medicine? What was it that lit us on fire about veterinary medicine when we were kids, and really tap into that authentic feeling and that authentic knowing that this is where we really are meant to be. And it is something that we love to do, and just really embrace the authenticity behind all of those feelings that we had when we were young. And it's just so incredibly important to recognize that our passions and our joy are our purpose. So yeah, I could go on and on and on about human design specifically. Obviously, I'm also very passionate about ensuring that people have a good understanding of central nervous system regulation too. But yeah, it's all very fascinating, and it all comes together so perfectly. And I know all of my clients have really had massive transformation by combining these 3 pillars. And I love it so much. And like I said, I could talk about it for hours. So
Absolutely.
I will respect everyone's time.
No, that's great. I mean, I love the passion over here. And I was just wondering, a question that perhaps I was not really clear on is, how does human design play into a veterinary office, right? You mentioned that even corporate is taking an interest, really understanding that unique individuality each one has. How does this help in day-to-day vet med?
Right. I love that question. So when all of us are following our unique human design, it helps. I like to equate it that we're like puzzle pieces. So when we're working within a team atmosphere and we're working together with others, sometimes we can have some friction, right? When there's a level of understanding that isn't there. So we're not meant to all think the same. We're not meant to all have strengths in the same areas. We're meant to fit together like puzzle pieces. So where I might be really good at communicating because I have a defined throat, I might really love educating clients and getting into the rooms and maybe being a mentor on the other side of the wall to other technicians or other veterinarians. Perhaps I'm meant to be the teacher. Where others are maybe better at all of the technical work and they're a little bit more uncomfortable with communication. So as long as we understand everyone's individual strengths and talents and what lights them up, it brings joy to the workplace. It brings a level of fulfillment to the workplace, but it also increases team cohesiveness, because it's like, okay, you love to communicate. Are you wanting to be the one who communicates and educates the client? and you love to do the technical work. Perhaps you're the one who prefers to be in the lab running all of the testing. And you're the one who loves to do the tactile things with our patients. You're the one who loves to do more of the physical aspect of things. So understanding everyone's individual strengths and everyone's individual things that they really love to do, and then bringing those puzzle pieces together to create that cohesive, that joyful team that really comes together to provide the best level of service to our clients as well, because a team who works together and communicates well is also more productive. They're more efficient. They have better client retention. Maybe they can even see more clients throughout the day because they are more efficient and they are more joyful. And I think the most important thing to understand is when we all come together as a team like that, from a corporate perspective or from like the individual practice owner's perspective, it significantly impacts the bottom line. Significantly impacts the bottom line. You avoid all the extra expenses of recruiting, having open positions available. Obviously, like even preventing or protecting, I like to say protecting one veterinary technician or one veterinarian from going on leave for burnout is anywhere between $140,000 to $700,000 in savings alone on a yearly basis. So it is very impactful to the bottom line as well.
And that's what, ties back into the ROI, because it really, when you find the right people in the right places, you allow them to have more of what they want to do, right? So when they want to do it willingly, instead of, like you mentioned, if they love communicating, great, you're in a communications role. That will allow more bandwidth for them to really excel in their role. And at the end of the day, of course, we understand burnout, stems from making other people happy at the expense of our own happiness. But if we are happy in making other people happy for a longer time, guess who's going to really feel that ROI, right? So that's what I'm understanding from this wonderful framework. So I think at the end of the day, it's wonderful. Did I understand that correct, Joelle?
Yes, 100% you did. Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. So now many professionals carry limiting beliefs like I'm not good enough or I have to do everything perfectly. What is the first step someone can really take to begin clearing those beliefs and reconnecting with confidence?
Yeah, like our limiting beliefs have impact on every aspect of our life, right? It isn't just our professional life that our limiting beliefs impact. So we have as well what are called soul wounds. And every single human being on the planet has these. Every human being has limiting beliefs. Every human being has fears. Every human being has these soul wounds. And the soul wounds are where the limiting beliefs and these fears initially take root. And it goes all the way back to the ages between 0 and 7 years old, where we're like stuck in the theta frequency in our brain and we absorb any kind of suggestive thought processes that enter our brains. So most of us see these things as negative. but they're really not. We are meant to learn from them. We're meant to move through them. And when we have our nervous system regulated, which is, like I said, kind of that key foundational thing that we have to start with, we're then able to choose kind of this next highest thought without our bodies contraindicating what our brains are trying to tell it. So we can actually start to believe something new and different because of this neuroplasticity that we have in our brains. And we can realize that we're safe. So this modality that I'm certified in called Clear the Fear, it's a hypnotherapeutic therapy. And it's very similar to EMDR, to be honest. So many people are becoming more and more familiar with EMDR, and it's quite similar. We're able to go back to the very specific event in our memory and address the event for what it is, and then work to change the story. And in changing the story, it's an instant shift in what we feel within our body. And it all obviously also is tied into that feeling of safety. So we change the event from something that's negative that causes us to go into survival mode when we experience a similar trigger into something that's positive instead, so that the trigger keeps us neutral moving forward. So it's a very fascinating thing when it comes to all the neuroscience behind it. Again, something else that I can talk about for hours on end. Obviously, I won't. But the moment we can choose these higher thoughts, these new belief systems, it changes the dynamics of everything in our thought processes moving forward.
Amazing. I'm just curious if it's possible for you to share a quick story on
Yes.
real case. Of course, we don't need the details, but
Of course, yeah. I had a client once who had come to me. She was experiencing repeat patterns. So by repeat patterns, what I mean is oftentimes we go through life and we'll be like, oh my gosh, this again? Why does this keep happening? And those things keep happening because we haven't taken the learnings from the thing yet. So we have to take those moments of introspection and start to really question ourselves about what it is that needs to be learned from these repeating events that I can elevate beyond. And so she'd come to me saying that she was experiencing this repeat issue, and to help her identify why this was happening. Okay. So throughout the process, I won't go into details, but throughout the process, I was able to get her back to an event when she was approximately 4 years old. And she had an experience with her father having an argument with her mother about a money situation. And she was witness to this argument. And in that argument, they were fighting essentially about spending and that whole lack and scarcity thing that had occurred within this argument. And so then she immediately adopted the fact that money was bad. Money causes arguments. Money causes disruption in relationships. And the repeat pattern that she was seeing in her life was exactly that. The relationships that she was having with with her spouse, or the relationship that she was having with her spouse, was constantly in turmoil surrounding money. And it's because of this particular belief system that she had. Now, when it comes to veterinary medicine, I know for me personally, one of the experiences that I had being on the receiving side of this particular modality, I was actually brought back to being very, very young. And it was the issue that I was having was that because I was adopted from birth, I had that whole rejection issue and this feeling of judgment, these fears of judgment that kept rearing their ugly head, which obviously when we have these fears of judgment and rejection, one of the things that we're instinctively going to do is not show our natural self, right? And so that experience was incredibly transformational for me too. It was one of the things that helped me to realize that I'd fallen very deeply into those people pleasing and perfection tendencies. So, yeah.
Wow. It's belief systems. I really appreciate that example and really you sharing your own experience there, Joelle. This is deeper. This is I'm at a loss for words, but it's deeper than what we really think about. Usually it's burnout. Okay, take a vacation. Let's take a few days off, just rest. Okay, you're resting, but you come back and you're burned out yet again, perhaps even worse. There's the whole exodus out of the veterinary industry happening just because of this reason as well. So I really appreciate you, Joelle, taking the time and breaking it down to the most granular level we could really get. And of course, where it stems from. And I really do hope that our listeners are able to take away something from this conversation. Speaking of which, if they could take away something, and if they could only take away one thing, what would it be to wrap things out?
Oh my goodness. You know what? If you can just really tap into the benefits of breathing the way our bodies are intended to breathe, that can be like absolutely life transformational. So the best way to start creating a new habit is, number one, to choose something that's going to fit into your lifestyle easily and effortlessly, something that's quick and easy to do at any time, anywhere. That would, from my perspective anyway, that would be a breathing exercise. So there's a fantastic exercise that I teach to many of my clients, if not all of them, and that is the box breathing. So you want to take that nice, big, deep belly breath in, sit up nice and tall, and take the breath in for 4 seconds. And then you want to hold it for 4 seconds, and then exhale through the mouth for 4 seconds. Hold at the end of the exhale for 4 seconds again. Inhale for 4 seconds through the nose, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then just keep repeating that cycle at least for 3 times. If you start to do that right before bed, or first thing in the morning before you get out of bed, or both, ideally, you're going to start instinctively training your body to do that when you're starting to feel as though you're getting a little bit anxious, or you start to notice that your breath rate goes up, your heart rate goes up, maybe your shoulders come to your ears and your solar plexus clenches, and you're just instinctively going to tell yourself subconsciously, just breathe. and all will be well.
And we'll end it at that. Joelle, thank you so much for joining us. What a wonderful conversation it has been. What I really appreciate about this conversation is that it went deeper than take a break or set better boundaries, because for so many people in veterinary medicine, the real issue is not that they don't care enough. It's that they have cared so much for so long while slowly pushing themselves further and further aside. So for everyone listening in, if you want to continue the conversation with Joelle, we've attached her socials in the show notes so that you can connect with her and learn more about her work at Joyful Journeys with Jo. And a quick reminder, you can book the complimentary marketing strategy meeting through veterinarybusinessinstitute.com/MSM. I'll repeat that one last time, veterinarybusinessinstitute.com/MSM if growth is on your radar for 2026 and beyond. With that being said, I'm done, Adeesha. This has been the Veterinary Business Podcast. Until next time, take care.